Hey there everyone, today we are going to talk about JSX and components in React. So let's get into it. To start, let me answer this big question for you. What is JSX? JSX stands for JavaScript XML, a syntax extension for JavaScript. In simple terms, it is just a way to write HTML-like code within the JavaScript files. It is a very integral part of React and it is used to describe what your user interface should look like. Now, this is just the demo page of React, and in the app.js file, whatever you are seeing here is JSX. Let's start here with a quick example of what JSX is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of the code present here, and then I'm just going to create a simple heading. This is a React component that is rendering a heading. But this code might look like an HTML to you and me, but it is not. This is JSX. When you save it, you will see here that it has been compiled successfully and you have got the heading here, React App. This JSX code gets transformed into regular JavaScript code behind the scenes. JSX has several features. Familiar syntax. Now as you will see here that it is familiar to HTML, making it easy for developers like you and me to learn and use React. JSX is used to create React components, which are reusable building blocks for the user interface. We can also embed JavaScript expressions in JSX. Let's create a variable called name and assign it value of React. Then in h1 down here, what we are going to do is we are going to say hello. And then we are going to use this curly brackets to bring the JavaScript expressions, and then I'm going to write the variable name, which is name, okay? And when you save it, you will see it brings the changes. Hello React. We use curly braces to insert JavaScript expressions. In this example, we are dynamically inserting the value of name variable into our JSX. What we can do is, let's create another heading and then bring the curly braces and then name again. So you will see here the h2 heading which we are getting from here. Now you can also use self-closing tags just like you do in HTML, such as the image tag or the break line tag, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate that here with the break line tag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a paragraph and I'm going to paste this paragraph down here, and for the line break let's just add here br tag, and when you save the file you will have this paragraph here and it is just breaking the line after this. So you can use the self-closing tags in JSX also, okay? Now I'm going to talk about styling the JSX elements. We can apply inline styles to JSX elements such as these headings or this paragraph using the style attribute. However, the styles are to be defined as JavaScript objects with the camel-cased property names. Here, create and style object which is defining color and the font size. And now to include this style into our headings or paragraphs, what we have to do is we have to bring the style attribute here and then bring the curly braces to include that style object. Okay, just like this. And now when you save this file, you will see this text of paragraph is converted to red. Now it has a font size of 20 pixel and it is red. Let's change it to 10 and let's save this. And there you have it, okay? So this is how you can bring or you can style the JSX. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about class versus class name. So what I'm doing here is I'm just importing the React logo and then importing the CSS, okay? And down here I'm calling that image, and when you save this file you will see this React logo has appeared, okay? And one thing you will notice here is the class name attribute. In JSX we use class name instead of class for specifying any CSS classes. This is just because the class is a reserved keyword in JavaScript. So that is why we use class name in a camel case. Now, when we talk about conditional statements, we can use ternary operators or conditional statements inside JSX to conditionally render elements. In React, there is no special syntax for writing conditions. We use the same syntax as JavaScript code. Let's understand this with the example I have written over here. Here we use is logged in variable to conditionally set the heading JSX element. If the variable is logged in is set to true, then it will display a heading which will say welcome user, and if it is set to false, it will display please log in. So here I have set it to true, and then here we are returning a heading inside the div. Okay, so let's save this file and you will have this heading welcome user, and when you set this variable to false and save the file, you will have the message or heading please login. This demonstrates how you can use conditional statements to render different JSX elements based on the application state or logic. Instead of just using simple headings here, we can use components. Also, we can use conditional operators instead of using if and else conditions. Now I want to talk about JSX fragments. JSX normally requires a single parent element. As you will see here, we just have a single parent element div. Okay, when you try to add another div over here, you will see all these red lines which is showing the error. You cannot add another div if you have already one div present. Okay, now to return multiple elements, what you can do is you can add fragments. You can do it just like this, and then down here I'm going to close this fragment and save. Okay, so there we got the error which says that unexpected use of name. Here we are using this JavaScript expression. Actually, I removed the dynamically set variable name, right? What we are going to do is we are just going to bring this hello React, and again we have that style is not defined. It's okay, so I'm just going to remove this and let's save it. Okay, perfect. And there we are using two divs and we don't have any error. You can have another heading over here, let's say h1, and I'm going to say I'm another heading and save this, and there you have it. So you can use many elements as you want, but you have to keep in mind you have to use these fragments. These fragments, I guess, are introduced in React 16.2 version. Now remember this, while JSX might look like similar to HTML, it gets transpiled to JavaScript using tools like Babel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but yeah, before being executed in the browser. So it gets converted into JavaScript, okay? This allows React to efficiently update the DOM and manage the component tree. Now, as we are done here with JSX, now I'm going to talk about React components. Okay, so in React, a component is a reusable, self-contained piece of user interface that encapsulates a specific functionality or view. Components allow us to break down the application's UI into smaller and manageable parts. React has two types of components. The first one is functional component and the second one is class components. Functional components are JavaScript functions that will return JSX. These are very simple and easier to read than the class component. Class components are JavaScript classes that extend React.component. The functional component does not store or handle the state, and that is why it is also referred to as stateless component. However, React provides a hook called useState that enables function components to keep track of their state. Now it has been suggested to use function components along with hooks, which were added in React in 16.8 version. So in this video, I'm just going to talk about the functional components. So what we did here is basically a function component, okay? So let's create another component. Open this, and in this source directory, let's create a folder and name it as components. And inside this component folder, let's create our first component.jsx file, okay? You can also use TypeScript over here, okay? But that's the another case. So here you have to start by importing React, okay? Don't forget that. And then create a function called first component, and inside it let's just return a heading hello first component. And here we are exporting this component also. Save this file, and then in app.js file what we have to do is we have to first import our first component. So here we are going to say import first component, and then when you click enter you will have this over here. Okay, so we are importing the first component JSX file, and remove all of this content over here, and then call our first component like this. And when you save this file you will have this heading over here, hello first component, which is basically coming from here. But here we exported the component, and then in app.js file we imported our first component. Similarly, let's just create our second component over here. So what we are going to do here, we are going to start by importing React from React, and then let's export this function, and let's say default function second component, and then we are going to return hello second component. But one thing what we are going to do is we are going to bring the inline style over here. So you should know by now how we do that is by creating a style object. Okay, and we just going to set the color to blue, and down here let's bring the style attribute, and then curly braces, and then write our variable name. Okay, and let's save this file. After we are done over here in app.js file, what we have to do is we have to import the second component. Okay, and then down here let's bring up our second component too. So you will have this red line over here, and now you can guess why this is so, because we are using two components down here, so we have to use fragments, remember, right? So this is how you can create your components. Okay, so in our components we can use properties, we can use states, we can do many things. Okay, but this is basically how you create the components. Create as many components as you want, and then bring them in app.js file. Okay, so components are just a piece of UI. So that's JSX and components for React. If you want to learn more about the components, or how to create and nest components, how to add markup and styles, how to display data, just head over to react.dev/learn, and there you will have all this documentation present over here. So here wraps my video. I hope you enjoyed this video and found this video helpful. If you did, then do not forget to like and subscribe. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye and take care.